What up, what up, what up?
What's happening with you, man?
Man, it's another edition of Religiously Incorrect.
Religiously, R.I.P. We here.
We are here. Sunday night service in effect.
Yes, sir.
Man,
yes, sir.
It's a good night. It's a good day.
It has been a beautiful
Hasn't
day.
it been a beautiful day?
Weather turned out all right.
Did not our hearts burn as the word of God was preached by us?
Absolutely.
I mean, it was a good day. Hey, everybody out there in Facebook land, YouTube world, welcome to another edition of Religiously Incorrect. And
rep your church today.
Rep your church.
Rep your church.
Where'd you go to church?
Where you come up? Where you go?
And you know what? Leave the bedside Baptist jokes alone. We don't care anymore.
Yeah. Don't do that.
I mean, at least say pillow
really
Pentecostal or something.
You know,
I mean.
Yeah, I mean,
kitchen cornelia. I mean, come up with a new phrase. That's what I'm saying. Kitchen cornelia, pillow, Pentecostal. You know what I'm saying? Living word, living room, living word church. You know what I'm saying? Come up with something new that's actually interesting.
Right.
But this Religion Incorrect,
we are brought to you by our first sponsor is the African American Community Fund. The African American Community Fund, established in 2020 at the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio, supports Black-led and Black-serving organizations throughout the 32 counties of Appalachian Ohio to elevate the quality of life and address disparities in African American communities. Check them out at www.appalachianohio.org or give them a call at 740-753-1111.
My man, Pastor Jeff, it's Holy Week. It's officially Holy Week.
Yes, sir.
This is like Super Bowl week for the church.
Man.
And just like Super Bowl week, it literally is a whole week of activities.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot going on in the church world. So it's Palm Sunday. And this is what I would say. During Holy Week, we go from palms to lilies. Mm-hmm. And no matter what plant we have, the ushers are furious. The ushers are furious. They dread Palm Sunday.
Well, we gave ours out at the end, man. We gave ours out at the end.
We usually do. But I told them, because we were singing Hosanna, Blessed Be the Rock, and I just stopped the song and was like, where are the palms at?
You wanted people to wave,
and I wanted them to wave the palms,
like they wave their lighters in the air.
And let me tell you something. Our usher president gave me the look of death, and he was obedient. Thank you, Brother Greg, Coach. He was obedient. He was like, okay, that's what you want. And then I got up there and lied. I was like, I'll clean it up. Which I will. I will.
It's 300 of them left on them.
Right. But, I just wanted it to be more festive, I
think if I was a kid and got one of them, I'd probably be trying to put it in somebody's ear.
Whipping each other with them. I mean, that's why they stopped passing them out. They stopped passing them out because, kids would tie them around each other's necks, be choking each other. You end up getting paper cuts with them and all that. And, and because it's, bad economic times, most of us can't afford the real palms with the actual branches. Mm-hmm. We just give out the little strips.
Right.
That's the best we can do.
That's all we
That's all we got. Inflation has been hard on everybody.
We're going to get you.
But I like, and I said, the reason I said it, and they went along with it, and thankfully the church was marginally clean. Elder Carter had to pick some up after church. I appreciate you. A true servant's heart. A true servant's heart. But, hey, Pastor Glenn, we hope you're feeling better. Hope everything is well.
Absolutely.
But I wanted them to pass out the palms because I remember, and I was low-key disappointed that when we did our opening hymn, it wasn't Hosanna, Blessed Be the Rock, because that is the Palm Sunday anthem. It's the Palm Sunday anthem. You give the kids the palms, you let them wave it. Everybody waves it and sings it. And again, because church folk are irresponsible these days, you can't pass stuff out in the church. Remember people who were really crafty would turn it into a cross?
I was going to say that. The one guy at the end of my service, older guy, man. Older man. I mean, he was just
he's over there doing origami.
I'm walking back and I'm like, what? She's like, he does this for everybody every year. He tried to run out on me this year, but I stopped him.
You stopped him?
I was like, wow,
right.
Wow, yeah.
But that is the official song of, Palm Sunday is Hosanna. Hey, Sister KK, blessed be the rock. And, I just wanted them to have that festive moment in the church. I wanted them to have that experience. And it was good. I mean, we didn't even get them out that quick, like to get it to everybody, because thank God we've had a ridiculously healthy, we've had Easter crowd, almost Easter crowds. Now, Second Baptist is always ridiculous on Easter. We are that Easter church. We're that Easter church. Everybody in the Easter church, Second Baptist is definitely Easter church. But somehow Easter came early. We thought Easter came early because it's in March. We've been Eastering since the beginning. So
that's a wonderful thing.
I'm almost glad we didn't have enough. But I will be bringing my shop back out.
No, you won't.
I will. No, I'll do it.
What's funny is, for those of us who do series, what needs to be realized is that Palm Sunday is actually the first day of this week. So we always have to skip it to come back to it because we want to wait to have it on Palm Sunday. So it's always kind of crazy like that.
Yeah, exactly. So people don't know the work we have to go through to get to where we're trying to get to. But
even today, I went down the week, the Mondo Monday, and the Silent Wednesday. I went through, and I said, well, it was Saturday. It was actually Palm Sunday. I said, but we'll come back to that.
What we consider,
we'll come back to that.
And that's become, the thing about, the age of knowledge that we're in, where we do have a little bit of the shifting of days, which I gotta say, I haven't seen a whole lot of people. I think because I blocked them all. I think I said this last year. I blocked them all. All the people that want to tell me Easter is pagan. I didn't
see any this year.
I think we blocked them all. That's what I think happened.
You're right. I have not seen any. They always say it on. I didn't say anything this year either. Because I always say before y'all start this mess.
Right. But I did see one that was kind of funny that made me chuckle. I did see one, and you could tell it was a church person that said it wasn't disrespectful, but they were like, every year Easter, the date of Easter keeps changing. Somebody find the death certificate so we can be sure. And that was good. Every year Easter's changing. Somebody to find a death certificate so we can be sure.
And I'm quite sure. I'm waiting.
You're waiting.
I'm waiting because Palm Sunday is the Sunday for the cussing preacher to have a good time. I'm waiting. Somebody is going to be on somebody's YouTube.
Somebody is going to talk about the donkey.
Yep. Somebody going to use the other word for donkey.
Well, I said it because it was in the scripture. And to be honest, I was kind of waiting on the children. Mm-hmm. Like I was waiting on a kid to chuckle. You know what I mean? Like I was waiting. I was like, a kid is going to probably laugh. And it turned out to not happen. Good. So I was actually really grateful.
Right.
I don't think they caught it. Mm-hmm. And, when you're in church, at some point or another, you hear that word and then somebody corrects you when you're young and you realize it means colt and donkey.
But it's, but it's become I've heard one where the guy was like, and he rolled that ASS and he rolled that ASS and he rolled. I'm like, come on, man. It's
2024. Can we get over shocking people by cussing in the pulpit?
Please.
Because, the thing to me is the only people that are shocked are like prudish church folk. And then you have prudish church folk who are shocked or think it's unique. And then you have people who want to be okay with everything. encourage it and call everybody judgmental if you have any kind of problem with that.
Yeah, it is, but
or they just say y'all act like y'all don't cuss at home, or they say stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all.
You ain't have to go that deep.
You don't. And
you try
when you're not even awake, you're not even in the subject at this point.
You're trying to make it relevant to the cuss word, not to the donkey. So,
correct. Well, annually we do this and we'll tie this into our beginning segment instead of tackling it on the end. But annually, Pastor Jeff, we always just give a little Easter preview, a little talk about the do's and don'ts of Easter, and I think we should do a few, and they're really basic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A couple do's and don'ts. This is for me and everybody else I've learned. Don't try to overdo it with Easter. Nothing wrong with having one extra song or something like that, or a poem, or of course we do a Lenten meditation, we do a reading. But sometimes the best church is the church you always have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even when a bunch of guests are coming. Absolutely. And I'm telling myself that all week, I really want to be as normal as possible, because the special day is special by itself. And the worship we have on a regular basis is dynamic by itself. Yeah, and sometimes we as preachers, singers, everybody, we overshoot it, we over expect, and then we end up like wearing ourselves out in the first 15 minutes or 10 minutes of the service, trying to, with the anticipation, the expectation, and then we're like kind of punch drunk by the end.
There is a lot of anticipation, but like you said, don't overdo it. And then, I think we're at an age now, at a place now where we try not to have these extra kids. So everybody's just like sort of adding it to the service. The little kids plays and the little kids speech. Don't try to make it the Last Temptation.
The Temptation.
Don't
we
put blood all over. Don't put blood on. Don't use a real crown.
Don't use a real razor to cut Jesus.
Don't have them coming in beaten.
But to be honest, especially. And by the way, if you're gonna have a play, to Jeff's point, if you're gonna have a play and depict the suffering of Christ, make sure the Roman soldier doesn't have a beef with the person playing Jesus. Make sure they like each other, because when it comes to that time to start hitting them and whipping them, they gonna get their licks in.
When Jesus dropped that cross and knuckle up,
right?
You know it went wrong. Right.
He said only the real savior is this humble. So make sure the person playing the soldier that likes Jesus and doesn't have it out for him. We're doing the Easter egg hunts and all of that stuff. Let everybody participate. If people include that in their activities, let it be. There's no need to be better than the other, more spiritual than the other. And don't try to like cover up the Easter egg hunt with like a cross hunt or a Holy Ghost hunt or, just let the kids have some candy.
And you're 16. It's okay. You don't got to try to get all the eggs.
Tell you're 16. Elias.
You're 16.
Elias, you're 14 now. Elias is 14 now. He's dunking on kids. He's chop blocking 6-year-olds. Yeah.
We put out 100 eggs and you got 77 of them.
Right. That's
little kids is mad, crying.
He got a whole garbage bag. Like one of the big black dumpster bags full of eggs. Yeah, I love it. And make sure, especially if they're real, you find all the eggs.
Please.
And you go around and search for them.
They will stank.
Because they will
By this time, it stank. It's been 4 days.
Next week.
By this time, it's stanking.
Don't bring, my guests and my friends, don't bring any of that Easter grass, that fake grass to church. Don't bring, grass. You thought the palms were bad. And the Easter lily,
because sometimes if you got not so good vacuum, it ain't gonna pick that stuff up.
Oh, it's not picking that up. You're in trouble. You're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
You gonna break the vacuum.
Yeah, break the vacuum. Right. We have a whole revolt. I already got about a Usher's pizza this week for these palms I had them pass out. So he searched all over, couldn't find no eggs. I love it. What's up, Pastor Wingfield? Yeah, none of that Easter grass. No, not CBD, Pastor Kid. No. See what I'm talking about? This liberal, amoralistic society we live in now. Yeah, so I mean, I think that's, and to all the saints, don't pick on or make sly comments about anybody that comes to church once a year.
Oh my, please. Please.
Again, the best church is regular church.
Please.
Glad to see you. You look beautiful. Let's take a selfie.
Absolutely. In congregation, don't let those who come interrupt your worship.
Please. Listen.
If this is how you generally praise, continue to pray. Don't let those who might not even be back next Sunday stop you from praising the way you
I
praise.
have said it to our church. My members can attest to this. One of kind of the bugs in my craw, so to speak, is when we have special services and they become less spiritual, even though they're supposed to be more special.
Right.
Like the more special and meaningful it is supposed to be, the less spiritual and moving, because we're like so caught up in the specialness.
Right.
And not just the guests, the members too.
Right.
And so like you said, if we are engaging, again, I'm not telling you to overdo it and jump out a window the first song or whatever, but if we're engaging and clapping, the people will join in and we'll have an uplifting service. And you know, and by the way, go on ahead and be ready to slide over.
Yeah.
Hey, brother, hey, sister, hey, mother, hey, deacon, hey, whomever. Go on ahead and be ready to slide over. Everybody can't have that in-pew seat. You cannot be unwilling to just slide. And don't make everybody, can I say this?
Go ahead.
And don't get up and make everybody slide in when you could have just slid over.
And don't look at your ushers like you ready to cuss them out. They're just doing their job.
I actually said, I think it was to Mike earlier, I said, I wish at Second Baptist, just speaking of Second Baptist, and it's not a knock on the ushers at all because they do a phenomenal job. I said, I wish we did more guided seating where they actually, because they don't do it as strictly. But there's a reason they don't do it as strictly, because people don't like to cooperate and they get kind of tired of that.
Absolutely.
I wish we could just rehearse and practice them. You come this way, you sit in here, because that way you can manage the empty spaces. And, you know, everybody piles up in the back of the church, of course, you know, and then you got to try to help people sit towards the front. And that's another thing. We need more of our saints and regular attendees to sit towards the front and don't force people who are uncomfortable, because think about that socially. I know you're comfortable a little bit in the back, but you're also more comfortable and familiar with worship.
Right.
So if you would be willing to come a little bit forward, so the person who
has issues with the sound.
Sometimes.
But
sometimes it's just a preference.
Yeah.
You know, and I get the preference. What I'm saying is be gracious. Believe it or not, an act of grace is actually leaving some of those back seats for the visitors. And I'm not saying you put the visitors in the back, but I'm saying people who are a little nervous about church would rather not have to come up, you know, and be the third row.
The usher has to walk past everybody. The usher has to walk them past everybody, bring them up to, because now understand, they're probably going to be a little late too.
Right.
They're probably going to be a little late.
Especially a second.
So they going to
Warren, second Warren. We got to get this right. Especially a second Warren.
It's all good. It's all good, Leah.
Love y'all. Right, Leah. Hey, Leah was complaining about the parking last week. I didn't see her this week. I said she must have kept on driving. No, she's out of town. But I said she probably saw that lot this week and just kept on driving. And that's another thing. I'm going to ask our brothers, when I do my little pastor update this week, I'm going to ask all of my brothers to go ahead and park across the street. I'm going to ask all of our brothers who can, go ahead and park across the street. Go ahead and just park over there so that everybody else can come in. Mm-hmm. Yes, visitors, sisters, you know, if you can, you know, drop your wife off at the door and keep it moving, and you park and come back and get them at the end. You know, here's a good one. Take lots of pictures. Let me say this. Take lots of pictures, but don't all of y'all be going live at the same time during the service, inside the service. We have a live stream. And Lord knows we're barely keeping it on the internet as it is.
It is the worst.
Stay off my Wi-Fi.
Listen, Mike is so frustrated. He's like, y'all stay off my Wi-Fi. Get off the church Wi-Fi.
You have no need to go live if the church is already going live.
Now, sometimes it can be helpful because they have a different audience or a crowd. Like if a few people watch a short clip, but you don't need to record the whole 2 hours or the whole 90 minutes of it.
It takes away from your worship experience, at least for me.
It does.
If I'm trying to, you know, that's whether I'm at church, whether I go to a concert. I can't watch the concert and go live. It's just...
That's become aggravating. Even though I like to get moments, I wish everybody would get their moment instead of having the doggone phones in the air for
the whole time.
You know what I mean?
You ain't even got that much battery left. It's your little raggedy iPhone.
Okay, here's one more before we go. If you plan on getting the Holy Ghost, practice your shout at home. Listen to me. Practice your shout at home. Put two chairs really close together, like one right in front of you, and practice having 16 inches of space to get your dance in.
Just stay right there, huh?
Right. Just stay right there.
Do I need to do a tutorial?
You know what, Jeff might have.
I need to do a tutorial.
Jeff might have to do afterward. We'll do it afterward. We want to keep our set intact. Now, Reverend Carla, I do have an annual tradition where I ask everybody to take a quick Easter selfie in church because I think it's just fun. Yeah. But like while I'm asking you to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, don't be having a whole full-on conversation trying to get your whole row while I'm trying to preach. Right, like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Don't do that. Okay. Any others? Any other do's or don'ts for Easter? Dress your kids up, man. Let your kids look cute.
Please put them little ruffle socks on them.
Put them white ruffle socks on them babies.
Girls, yeah.
Put them white ruffle stockings on them babies. Let them wear them little flat shoes that make them walk straight. You know, dress them up in extra bows.
And we know some of y'all gonna be rebellious. I ain't putting on jeans and
I don't care.
It's okay.
We don't care.
Come on. It's all good.
Hey,
it's all good.
Go ahead and wear that neon green suit, man. That's what Easter's for. Go ahead and dress up. And that's what I love. If bro wants to come in with the hoodie and the jeans,
that's right.
Beautiful. If the sister wants to come in with the suit and the hat,
it's okay.
Beautiful.
Come on.
I mean, make it happen.
We all gonna come. We one family.
Grover's gonna wear a 3-piece and a biscuit from Howard's. Have your way, Doc.
Grover,
wear your best piece
right now.
Wear your best piece.
It's being hemmed right now as we speak.
He's gonna iron it every day until the creases. Till the creases just cut, folks.
I'm just gonna go over to Grover House and shave my head with the crease.
With the crease.
Get it right, Grove.
Shave it with the crease. All right, y'all. It's Religiously Incorrect Sunday night service, and y'all know what time it is. It's time for Meme of the Week.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the
Week. Thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
We are, these are all jokes. We are just playing.
So, Pastor Carla said, hats, ladies, please. She is begging you to wear a hat. She will give you a hat. Now watch them all show up in snapbacks. And okay, so here's our meme of the week. We're coming to the end of the most wonderful time of the year in the black community, and Jesus has something to say.
Okay.
Go ahead. Jesus says, you straight? Haven't heard from you since you got your tax refund. Listen, let's keep it up there. He stands at the door and knocks.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock.
He said, I see you at Burlington.
If anybody,
he said, I see you,
has gotten your taxes.
I see you at the mall. He said, but I ain't seen you in church in a minute. You were praying for a blessing, and I made sure that that deposit dropped early.
You got $7,000.
They told you 14 days and it came in 9.
My God.
And I ain't seen you since.
And some of y'all got the quick one. Y'all got the turnaround day.
Instant refund. And Jesus said, you straight? We good?
What's up?
We all right?
Hey, I heard from you.
Didn't you hear the pastor say, give a little bit of your tax money to the Lord? Didn't you hear the pastor say that? Jesus is he's watching.
You heard him walking through the garden in the still of the day.
You know Jesus with that H&R Block with you, right? You know he's he's on TurboTax too, right? You know that, right? He's a Jesus of Jackson Hewitt.
Who told you were naked?
Listen, Jesus is like the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. He's like, that's all right. You'll be back in May.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be back.
When you're broke.
You're going to need another blessing. Don't worry.
I ain't even done my taxes yet.
You haven't done your taxes yet?
I ain't even done them yet. I got to get them
done.
I
did them the first day. I said, I need all my ducats.
I got to
Listen, the closer my kids get to 18, the more I treasure. The more I treasure, brother.
Tell me about it. I miss them deductions.
Listen, I'll take them all day, brother. I'm going to start altering birth certificates pretty soon. I'm going to do whatever I got to do.
I ain't got to alter birth certificates. I just keep on having kids.
Yeah, Jeff, Father Abraham over here.
Those Giorgio routines.
Georgia. Hey, I was a faithful Giorgio Brutini.
No doubt.
Adherent, boy. I went to the church of Stacey Adams, and when I didn't have Stacey Adams money, some Giorgio. I'm about to go to K&G and get some now. Since you brought it up, them square-toed joints.
Yeah, straight out the
Square
box.
toes.
This square toe. You're
square-toe joints.
gonna be able to tell the ones that ain't been to church since the early 2000s. They're gonna have them square-toed joints.
You can find them at Howard's at that
They
one
still got-
that
they
one
still got that
section.
clearance section.
That clearance section.
Listen,
You can get them.
go ahead and wear your square toes, man. Jeff is the Nick Cannon of the church. He's the Nick Cannon of preachers.
Hey.
Oh man, but listen, yeah, I mean, you got that tax money. I hope you bought some Easter outfits and you put a little bit of money away. And you know, the one thing about tax time is, which I disagree. I saw a post that said, Pastor Jeff, stop lecturing these people on what to do with their taxes. I'm like, easy for you to say. They're not coming to you to borrow money in 2 months.
Right, exactly. That's
And you
exactly
asked
what
them
it
to
is.
save their money. Marlon said 2 guys in Youngstown. Grove says, I'll have my own. Yes, he will. Long as the souls ain't rotted out, Doc. Long as the souls.
These cats got $8,000 and they want to put $8.
They want to put, nah, bro. You got to come up. You got to come up on it. Come up on it. But yeah, man. So we want to thank our sponsors for supporting us. We are always grateful for our sponsors, beginning with Phillips Care Lawn Services. It's already looking beautiful outside. Grass is starting to grow. You might as well get your lawn plan together. They are professional. They are prompt. And you can call them at 330-219-7916. Anything that has to do with outdoor mowing, cleaning up, branch pickup, spring and fall cleanup, edging, trimming, anything that can help, they'll be there for you. Check out Phillips Care. And while you're at it, if you're doing some spring cleaning, make sure you check out Phillips Care Cleaning Service. They do residential and commercial cleaning. I'm not going to ask the men in the church to clean no more. I had them clean up Saturday and then had them throw palms all over the place today. I'm going to call Phillips Care Cleaning and I'm going to have them take care. They do carpet, hardwood floor, upholstery, move in, move out, servicing Trumbull, Mahoning, and surrounding counties. Check out my man Fernando at 219-7916 or look up Phillips Care LLC on Facebook.
All right, and we are also brought to you by Action, the Alliance for Congregational Transformation Influence in our neighborhoods. Listen, if you are in the Trumbull County area, if you are in Warren, Niles, what else is around here? Warren, Niles,
Youngstown,
Warren, just Trumbull County area.
Oh yeah, anywhere. Gerard, Liberty,
yeah, all of y'all, all of them are
Kinsman, Hartford.
Our next Warren meeting will be on April 11th here at the
Where are we gonna be at? Focus building.
Focus. What's the address? I can't remember.
2051 Niles Road,
2051
Southeast.
Niles Road. Yes. So it'll be April 11th at 6:00. 2051 Niles Road at the Focus Building. So come on out. We love to see you.
All right. Grover said I bought me some shoe glue that I'll be keeping in my pockets in case of an emergency.
Ooh, I used to have
That's a prepared brother.
Cause them Giorgio, they will come loose on you.
They'll come loose on you.
They'll come loose on you.
Yeah, there'll be
Especially if you cut a rug like I used to.
You try to cut a rug?
Yeah, like I used to. Yeah, it'll come loose on you.
He used to do that Riverdale. He needs some clogs, Doc. He needs some clogs. So today's show is called Risky Business.
Risky business.
Risky business.
Let's talk. I'm excited.
And we're talking about church business meetings. Annual church member business meetings. Now, I can't even say annual because some churches, and I'm going to need some of y'all to give me some history lessons. Some churches they had monthly business meetings or quarterly business meetings.
Quarterly.
You know, depending on how they operated. And all different types of churches have all different types of formats, and some are more common. And I saw, a post that said, you think the reality shows, are drama. Have you ever been to a church business meeting? And I kind of want to defer a little bit to Mike because I wanted Mike to introduce this. And I just want him to speak because I think this was his first time ever coming to a church business meeting at Second. And I don't know what his experience is with business meetings, but I just kind of want Mike to just kind of introduce the segment a little bit, why we thought it was so interesting to talk about. And then we want to hear from you all what kind of experiences you've had, good, bad, ugly, funny, whatever. So what's up?
First, I want to give a big shout out to my co-producer here tonight.
What's up, Ethan? MC Ethan in the house.
Woo,
MC E.
yeah.
Actually, his name was his Epic Goat. What is your name?
That's why I was like, Ethan the boss.
Ethan the boss.
Ethan the boss.
Ethan the boss.
Boss Hog.
Boss Hog. All right.
Yeah, it was my first time being at a church business meeting. I, never really wanted to go because I heard the horror stories. And
You been in church all your life?
all my life. It's my first time going. But yeah, I was very impressed with the organization and especially the detail. I mean, everything was detailed. I mean, they would give a number, but it wasn't just that number. They broke down everything that was included in that number. But yeah, just the whole, the way the whole thing went, I was very impressed with it. It was professional. Sister Rose did a wonderful job, again, with the details on everything. But yeah, I was very, very impressed. And again, I wasn't expecting the worst because it's second, but hearing the horror stories and things like that, I really didn't know what to expect.
What kind of horror stories did you hear, Mike? Just curious.
Well, Elder Carter said monthly with guns. So.
No, I never heard of, guns, but I heard people arguing and, getting up in each other's face and, people getting up and saying, you shouldn't say that, you shouldn't tell that part, or you shouldn't tell this part, or
Okay.
don't tell them what I'm making, and, stuff like that. So the transparency and the detail was key for me.
And I think it's good to be said. And I know Sister Rose, she is phenomenal. She is just, when you have somebody like that, and thank God that Second Baptist of the Ville has a Jackie,
Right.
just like Sister Rose, who, is just on it and just gives, or just very attention to detail oriented.
Right.
So when you have somebody like that, it does make it a little bit easier.
It does, but it only makes it easier if you let them do their jobs the way they know to do
Absolutely.
it. Now, obviously, you have to have trust and integrity, and a person can be very detailed, oriented, professional, and all that, but maybe use that to their advantage because somebody is not, and maybe do things they shouldn't. But if you do have a trusted person and a person that's integrous and all that, I think that's one of the biggest problems is that it's a business meeting.
Right.
Everyone's not business minded. Don't understand the business of the church, and might not be, let's be clear, even spiritually minded. Because it's a business meeting, but it's still a business meeting that handles the business of a spiritual entity.
Right.
And it's not just, a business, even though people always say church is it's not just a business. It is a spiritual center that by necessity includes business elements.
Right. Absolutely.
That for order's sake and for discipline's sake, and because, as I say to our church, we want to be above reproach. We want to honor God with how we operate with excellence, how we strive to be organized. And I think at every level, I just believe that one of those things that should be key to a church that we don't think about is that if you're going to have a church, start a church, or think you can lead a church or run a church, you should have some administrative capacity or people who have the capacity to do administration.
Absolutely.
It cannot just be preaching and teaching and worship and figure all the other stuff out later, because the other stuff, quite frankly, is what will destroy a church.
Absolutely.
No matter how spiritual, how well you preach, how anointed.
So we can't just jump around, shout, run around, speak in tongues, and
it can't count.
And can't count it.
Literally.
And our electric is getting cut off.
Right. And half the time, and one thing I will say, because we do know that there are bad actors, just totally, absolutely, thieving people out there in the world. And some of them, unfortunately, make their way into the church.
Absolutely.
Or bring that in. But there are other dynamics, too, to this. There are people who make a mistake and just try to cover it up, try to catch up. Something went wrong. I missed something. We lost something, miscounted something. And so that becomes a snowball. Then you have people who are just not adept at what they're doing, don't keep up, aren't good. I have a rule, especially when it comes to having your hands on the finances of the church. You shouldn't have your hands on the finances of the church if your personal finances are in perpetually bad shape. Not a bad season, not a mishap, or even a season where things just kind of go haywire and you have to grow. I'm talking about perpetually bad shape, because that's gonna bleed over. Banks won't let you work for them if your money is jacked up. But we're here to talk about the actual meeting.
Got a 430 credit score. Got a 430 credit score talking about, I want to be the head trustee.
You can't sign for a pack of M&Ms. And you want to be the finance director of the church. If you can't get credit at Circle K.
If you can't buy here, pay here.
If you
Dang.
You can't buy here, pay here. There's a problem.
If JD Byrider has you on the no lend list. If your picture is up at the Chinese restaurant,
If you own a check cashing place.
if you listen,
Come on, and it's a lot of them.
if you got
if
a mugshot at the check cashing place, because
If you got to go to another check cashing place to pay off the check,
you don't need to be the finance director. You can be part of the church.
You can be part.
You part of the church. We want you to get healthy. We want you to get right.
Just don't pass the plate.
Don't
pass the plate.
That's why we don't pass
Walk
plates.
around.
Listen, with a security guard.
Right.
But the meetings, I feel like, Brother Mike, I came from a church that I don't really remember the business meetings. When I got older and started helping my father out, and I got involved because I was working for a bank, and I started doing less. And I was just taking the funds and putting them into like graphs. That was what I could do. That's what I knew how to do. They had ledgers. Dad is a businessman. A lot of you guys know George was a businessman. I had some good men with him, and sisters, by the way, who were really good with it. And they were all paper. Paper, ledgers, the big book with the categories and the ledgers and the checkbook balance with the big book. I mean, he was good. But, when we got into like the early 2000s, I started getting involved. I was working for a bank. I'm like, well, Dad, if we're going to show this, because we were getting ready to build, we need to put this on the screen and at least have some charts or something to show what we've made, what we need to earn and all that. And so I started doing that and got involved. And that was my first experience with a business meeting. But it was in a church that was kind of that the shepherd, the pastor is the head, he's the leader. Between him and the board of elders, you're just basically presenting. There are no questions, there are no motions, there's no agenda to approve, none of that stuff. But it was a really great experience. I remember one rough conversation, and this is with me and basically when the family, this is more brotherly stuff. It really wasn't business stuff. But it did come up, like, how can you say we should get that loan? You ain't even that whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't a full church thing. So I've never known what it was like to have a full church blow up over. I'm not saying it didn't happen at my home church. Maybe when I was a kid, maybe he had to deal with some stuff or others. But I don't know what it's like people to blow up and ask about missing money, or you shouldn't be in charge of that, or that's out of order, or you're not qualified, or, which I learned about, only a member can show up. You can't vote. You're not in good standing.
What is good standing?
All of that.
You have to talk about what is good standing.
Yes.
You have to know what are the Robert Rules of Order.
So I got baptized in that world when I became the pastor of Second Baptist.
Right.
And to Deacon Willoughby's credit, Sister Rose, and they helped me along and showed me, they had the previous books. They've been doing the books the same way. Sister Janice Osborne, our secretary, had that annual report, big, thick book. It had all these reports in it. Each ministry was supposed to submit a report. And then they had all the deaths, all the baptisms, all the memberships, all the stuff. And that's some stuff now that I kind of got away from that after the pandemic. I kind of need to do. I made mention of it, but we need to do that. But how to open the meeting, how to call to order. Like, okay, you call to order, you express here's the agenda, look it over.
You got first of all, you've gotten your old minutes.
You got to
go through the old minutes. That's the old business.
Right.
You go through all that.
We actually kind of don't do that anymore.
But I'm just saying,
it used to be done. You got to go old minutes,
because everybody's
new
church,
business.
everybody's church did.
That was in 5-hour meeting days. I wasn't doing that.
Then you really have to, because there are some people. Let's just be honest. There are some people who use these business meetings to try to front on somebody, whether it be the pastor, whether it be the trustee. There are people who wait for this business meeting. I mean, they literally have a whole agenda themselves.
Oh, they have that's what I'm about to say. We have an agenda, but they have their own agenda.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They probably didn't had a meeting before the meeting.
Absolutely.
And you're right. And so the funny thing about that was I was warned, watch out for this, that, and the other, just because the last few years of my predecessors, time was a little tumultuous, and there were different reasons for it, and that's not uncommon. I think everybody knows that sometimes churches just go through seasons, and it's really hard to figure out. But what you just said, Pastor Jeff, about the old business, the new business, all these reports and things, sometimes the danger of the business meeting is that though you need to or you feel it's necessary to cover so much, the fact that you have to go through so much is what provides so many opportunities for dissension. Because you can just simply try to approve the old business, and then now somebody starts bringing up old business. Maybe they think it's not accurate. You didn't include this, you didn't include that. Did we ever decide that, and then you never ever get to present day and new business because of that. Then there's and it's again new to me. Okay, well, in the back of the church before they come in, somebody will be there with a sign-in sheet. And at times we have to go in the back and check if they're even, or have a form to see if they're on the roll and if they're in good standing. Now, I know when they had to vote for the pastorate, that could become an issue, especially very serious situations where you have to say, especially if there's the potential for contention, okay, well, everybody got all these opinions, but who's in good standing? And then their argument is about how dare I not be considered. Well, most of that good standing comes from the bylaws. What's in your bylaws? What does your bylaws say? And I'm not talking about the code of conduct. I'm talking about the actual bylaws of the church. And they'll tell you that you have to have been there for you had to have been there for this long. You can't miss this many church Sundays. You have to receive communion. You have to be a giver. Yep. You have to have given something like that. But if you're not doing that, and truth be told, some people are looking for, here's a good one. Because honestly, if you have a church that may be my size or your size or more, it becomes a lot more difficult. It's hard to track people. Now, if you got a church with 20 people, you know who the members are. Such and such ain't been here in the last 3 years because you know your 20 people that come. You know who they are. You know what I mean? So you know if that person is going to stay. But when you got 200 people, you know what I mean? You like, I don't know if she really. Have they taken communion in the past 4 months? Like, you're trying to think to yourself. And that's why people, and let me just say this and say it boldly. That's why people get upset when we talk about money and giving. But sometimes that's the only solid metric that we have. Right. Because it's not like we're taking attendance like we're in high school. Right. And we might remember that, man, this person hasn't come to. For instance, at our church at Second Baptist, we believe that you need to receive communion at our church. And if you have not received communion at our church in 3 months, 6 months, whatever, I mean, now we've never come down on somebody and said, well, you ain't been to communion. We never, but let's just say that person is raising what. And we have no metric, you know what I mean? And again, the person that shows up with an agenda, the person that has, I got a beef, and then here's how it always goes. Well, my problem is the reason I ain't been coming. That's why I ain't been coming, because y'all won't address, y'all won't address my issue, or this just ain't right. So I'm not going to come, not going to give, not going to take communion. You can't preach to me. You can't teach me. But by the way, when the meeting come up, I got something to say. And then Willoughby said, that's how I put them out. Well, listen, when I joined, I realized that Deacon Willoughby, they had a pocket full of letters, ready to write a name in there. So again, I come from a different tradition where that was not such a concern, but it was also, like you said, a smaller context. And when we were together at our former church, there was like this quick growth, this young growth. Most people did not care about that or have those kind of ties. Absolutely. And I can't say how it would have shaken out even in that church where stuff that you didn't really care about and we think we're kind of advanced beyond. We were just starting to see having a building and having a mortgage and having finances and having salaries and all that. We were very much on our way to those concerns. So it was easy to look down on other churches with their stories about meetings, because if they have contention, and I'm not saying they're right to have all this tension and fights and stuff, but usually it's over aspects of the church business that I wasn't familiar with having. If the preacher is work somewhere and don't really get paid no money,
right,
and you don't really have a lot of big givers or this long legacy in your church, and people haven't built this or tied to this, which again, I come from a younger church. My home church was younger. There's nobody there talking about, I've been here for 5 generations and my grandma built this and I don't want that changed. That didn't exist. So I had to shift my mentality that different contexts call for different approaches.
Absolutely.
And now you understand why they have the meetings. Now, how do you run it correctly?
And it's when you talk about not just member wise, but if your church has a budget of $200,000 as opposed to a budget of $30,000,
right?
You got to run things a little bit different.
You have to run them differently.
You can't just say, oh well, you know what I mean?
Right.
The pastor's salary, you got a janitor, you got, secretaries, you got all these different salaries, that people don't often understand. These things need to be adhered
and as
to.
your church grows to that level, if you're blessed to get to that level, you're not just blessed with that level, but you're burdened with that level.
Absolutely.
And it takes a certain caliber of person to maintain, not just to grow it, but to maintain it and to administer it. And to be frank and honest, that does not necessarily mean that as the church grows and numerically people, that you're just suddenly filling the church up with all these professionals who know how things should go. Right. And again, just because they know how things should go at the firm they work at,
right,
or the store they manage, doesn't mean they know exactly how it should go, because again, church is such a unique organization. It's like half spiritual center, half nonprofit, half business, half it's half a lot of stuff that requires a deft hand to do it correctly. And the thing is, there's this horror story, as Mike said, sort of thing about church business meetings, and unfortunately in the social media era, we're starting to see them again. You see people like post up letters that their loved ones receive for not giving, or pictures of fights over whether the pastor is resigned or kicked out or appointed.
Doc, I literally just read one where the pastor they had a church meeting, and they went through this whole meeting, and then at the end of the meeting, they said basically everything that we just talked about is non and void because we didn't even have a quorum. If you don't know these type of things, right. I mean, how frustrating is that to go through a 2-hour meeting to say everything that we just talked about
said is invalid. And then the weird thing about church, because it's an emotional kind of social, personal place, people will decide on a whim whether or not to go by rules. And I'm not even saying out of favoritism or trying to be scandalous. I'm just saying like, well, hey, we all understand. We all know our hearts. So let's not go by that. But what happens if that becomes like a legal issue or, and it unfortunately it does. And I don't care what the Bible says. Church folk been taking each other to court forever. They say we're not supposed to involve the law in the affairs of the saints and all of that. But you get a group of people mad enough and they'll go file lawsuits. And, I have to say in our church, like we do everything. We don't pass out the papers anymore. And again, this is before my time, but if you have people taking the church finances to the beauty salon,
right?
Not to say they can't take a number with them, but they'll take, the whole breakdowns and tell their friends or take pictures or try to go live in meetings and that kind of thing. And again, you're trying your best to be transparent. And again, I haven't experienced it, but there were protocols we put in place because in different times we had to guard against things. And unfortunately, people don't understand, well, if you're so transparent, then why can't you just tell you open up your checkbook and your bank account and put it all on Facebook?
Right.
And to kind of beat back at something, because I've heard this said on internet forums, and Umar Johnson said this once, talking about the black community the black church owes it to the black community to like tell them or, what the money they No, we don't. The people who give, who have invested and given of their time and their resource and tithe, they're the ones who are owed an explanation. And we even have a policy at our church that our books are open to anyone in our church who gives.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Where our books are open to anyone in our church who gives. Because how you going to ask about what we're doing with your money and you ain't giving no money? You know, I mean, just being honest. How you gonna ask what y'all doing with my money? I look up what you gave, like $45 in the past 9 years. What money? I'll show you one lily we bought.
Let me give you $45 back real quick. I got it in my pocket right now.
And people hear that in churches. I want my money. I want my money back, or I don't want people to, But that's one of the struggles. Another part.
Well, I was just gonna say.
Ahead.
I also think that you have to have leadership willing to say, you know what, to cut down on tension, to cut down arguments. We're going to table this.
You're right.
We're going to table this because I'm not going to allow this meeting to get out of hand.
Right.
And you're talking about such and such ain't even here, but you're talking about them.
Right.
You're talking,
Right.
table it until, and then find a better place to talk about this, because let's just be honest, there are some new members. And then,
right.
There's some new members who are coming in, and
everybody was loving each other in church.
We show them what's wrong with the church more than what's right.
Well, you show who you really are and how you really operate and what your spirit really is. Hey, what's up, Pastor Pat? And good to see you. In a church business meeting, and you're absolutely right. Newer members are affected not just by what they see in church, but what they see in the fellowship hall or the meeting hall. Absolutely. When it's time to do that. And that's a big part of the ministry and the witness of the church. I'm proud to say that any member of our church, as Brother Mike stated earlier, can come to a Second Baptist business meeting and, knock on wood, you will hear detailed reports, organized meeting, an overall positive atmosphere, questions answered to the best of our ability. And I've yet to have a serious disagreement or some sort of dissension. I'll never say that it will never happen, but it is my prayer that we have set a standard and a template of how to go about doing that, clearly. Now, one of the things, let's talk about the pastors.
Right.
Again, having never run business meetings before, but I had worked in sensitive areas in my secular jobs before. I've worked for a bank, where obviously you're dealing with folks' money. They walk in, they're unhappy for some reason or another. I've worked for the state of Ohio, where I had to deal with people who are on unemployment or losing their jobs, so they're obviously distressed. So there were some graces from my secular job that helped me to kind of if I approach this, because I spent my life in Trumbull County sitting in front of 200-300 unemployed, ticked off steel workers who are like, Obama took my job, and Bush took my job, and I got to find a way to tell them how they gonna get 50% of their pay and da-da-da-da-da. They got to sell their boat and all this other stuff and try to find a way to say it in a gracious way. So I made it up in my mind. And then when I hear the stories, and I've seen the videos, and I even hear the preachers talk. Number one, pastors are responsible for a healthy church meeting.
Absolutely.
Pastors, yes, there are messy people. Yes, there are sometimes unfair attacks and questions that have agendas behind them. But pastors are responsible for respecting the people, for honoring the fact that the congregation, the lay members of the church, are the people who make the church the church. We have an obligation. I walked into that, and I try to carry that all the time. We have an obligation of respecting the people, big church or small church.
Yes, sir.
Old church or young church, whether we're growing or we're plateaued or whatever. We have to come in with a spirit of respect and honor. And then we have to be peacemakers and people who will set the tone and template for how issues will be handled, starting with how we're questioned.
Absolutely.
Because you are the pastor, you are the shepherd, but you're the servant. And so people have to know that they can ask a question, and the pastor won't blow up at them, blacklist them, try to, make them into a side. And a lot of pastors who complain about poor church meetings and poor saints don't acknowledge their role.
And can I just add this to that? You said it. We are the pastors. I don't care what happened before I got here.
They ain't the pastor no more.
They are not the pastor. I had my first church meeting at Second. It was about a month ago. And I opened up. That's how I opened it up.
Yeah, I'm not the pastor. I'm not the
predecessor. I am not my predecessor. This is how I'm going to run this meeting.
And to your point, being that, and you're fresh to it, I was 8 years ago, and my broom is so big and my mop is so wet, to clean up their messes. At some point, the church has to come to a place of healing and forgiveness and move onness, because you'll never be able, every little, insult or wrongdoing that they felt, whether it was legitimate or illegitimate, whether it's unfair criticism because they ain't here to defend themselves, or whether there are some things that were real.
Right.
You can only do so much to clean up, not just that guy or girl, or no girl, but that sister, but whatever the dynamic of the relationship was, there was only so much you can do about that. And it's very much like a relationship. Like, I'm not that old guy.
Right.
I'm not your old boyfriend. I'm not your old. You have to get over that to fully accept and receive me. Now, if I'm acting just like him and he was stealing your money and I'm stealing your money and I'm telling you don't check my checkbook, well, maybe, he was flirting with the women and telling you who to hit on, maybe.
But and to that's another reason, because you brought it up earlier, how you said, some things may have been, they let slide for so long. The old pastor just kind of like,
and that's why we had issues.
Right.
Did you not see the pattern?
That's why the bank have foreclosed on that.
Right. Why is the IRS knocking on the door right now? Exactly. And so the pastors, we're responsible. We're also responsible for keeping order when people are against us and when people are for us.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes the people who are for us can be just as detrimental to the church, and they don't want anyone to question you, don't want anybody, everything you do is perfect to them, and that's great. But we are a congregation, a diverse group of people who all think differently. So because you love me and think that I'm doing a phenomenal job, that other person has the right to have a different opinion. If it's unfair or skewed, you fighting on my behalf doesn't help all the time. Now, Lord knows the pastor needs defended sometimes.
Absolutely.
But sometimes the way you defend the pastor, and now you want to go at somebody and hit harder because you don't like the way they approach something. Now, that can create an atmosphere that the shepherd can't control, and that's the hardest thing. And I pray that it never happens. Someone has something, it's not super duper positive to say, but then somebody who kind of snuffs it out, like kind of jumps up even more aggressively in that response. And like now I have to deal with the person who had the original critique or complaint or angry comment, but I also have to deal with the person who is trying to defend or rebut them. And so to that point, the whole congregation is responsible for a peaceful and healthy, and it's not just people who are angry and loud and toxic, but there's also people who are smacking their lips, rolling their eyes, mad at somebody else asking too many questions, that kind of thing. And it's just, you can start feeling the tension rise in the room.
Oh, after 2 hours. After 2 hours.
We went a little over 2 hours, the other week.
Yeah, after 2 hours, they start.
We got to do this, but I need y'all to help me out. You know what I mean? Take a happy pill before you come here. Bring your favorite coffee or whatever, and let's try to, get through it with a good spirit.
And I think one of the things you can do is try to, at least tell these heads of auxiliaries, listen, don't write a book report.
Bruh.
Don't write a whole book report.
Yeah, we haven't done them.
Just tell us what you've been working on, what you got going on. You know what I mean? Give me 2-3 minutes. I don't need, what y'all done in 1979.
Our brothers did a phenomenal job with that. Brother Grogan is not a talker. He had to speak this time, and he got up and did great. Deacon Pat did. But I get what you're saying, because you have these and everybody wants to explain themselves and what they want to do and all of that kind of stuff. So you're right. You have to kind of tamp down some of that so that we don't end up, doing that. Thank you, Deacon Grover. That's a good thing. And I want y'all to give us some feedback, good, bad, ugly, ugly comments about what you've experienced. Deacon Willoughby said one of the main things is that the leader must be honest. Sooner or later, it's going to find you out.
Absolutely.
Sooner or later, if you're not careful. I had some, we've been on a roller coaster with a project that we've wanted to do for some years now. And there were times when I had to get up and say, we're just not there, or we didn't get to where we thought we were going to be, or circumstances have changed. And let me explain to you what those circumstances are.
Right.
3 years ago, it was 2.5, 3 years ago, it was, hey, it's not just a pandemic. The money's still there. People gave good, but now inflation has gone wild. And what we thought we could do, we cannot do. Not now. And then in the meantime, in the story of our church, there were other projects that became far more urgent than they had been when we first started this campaign. And so instead of just spending money and talking about it later, right? Instead of spending money and talking about it later,
right.
I have to just get up. And that's where that, extra meeting might need to come in and say, hey, let's stay after church. I can tell you a few things real quick, get your feedback on it, that kind of thing. But that is absolutely right. Leaders must be honest. That leads me to a thing like how frequently, we talked about churches having monthly meetings. How frequently should churches have business meetings? And is it healthy to meet that often anymore? Or is it detrimental to be distracted, I guess, by feeling like you have to come back to this? Because who's really participating, especially if your church gets it feels like the smaller churches meet real frequently and just.
Yeah. I think oftentimes because they have a little bit more problems, a little more problem issues.
I think smaller churches take it more personally because they feel more personally tied because it's the 12 of us and let's just.
And so, I mean, 4 times a year or 3 times a year is a bit much. It is a bit much, and it's kind of it's kind of redundant, to be honest with you.
That is true.
How much you ain't really done too much in 3 months,
right?
In 4 months, you really haven't.
Right.
You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just a bit. I think once a year, twice a year at the most, right, is more than enough.
I agree. I agree, and I think that's a part of it is that I feel like everybody, and I don't know, I wasn't there, and I don't know what the issue was that people felt like they had to meet every month. But I was also in days when some of these churches would print up what everybody gave in the bulletin.
Right.
They would put everybody's giving on a wall or in the bulletin.
Yeah.
And I know it was supposed to be encouraging to that. And
but
thank you, Pastor Glenn. Leaders should pay their tithes.
It's also hurtful for others who might not have that much,
but they're being blasted out that.
This person gave $2,000 this month, and you gave 20, but you know what I mean. You don't got a job. You got 12 kids.
Right. You're trying. I mean? Yeah. Jeff has 12 kids. I mean, Pastor Wingfield said, I was told by a seasoned pastor that the more business meetings you have, the less you trust your leadership. Wow. That's interesting.
Wow.
That's interesting. And I will say that just because people aren't being loud about their discontent doesn't mean that they're not discontent.
Absolutely.
Everybody doesn't scream and holler at you and jump up and make accusations. And that's why you have to be careful not to mistake silence for satisfaction. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, don't mistake, like, it's good to ask people how you feel. Sometimes I just ask random members, you good? Everything good? You got any questions about some of the stuff that we have kind of presented? How do you feel like we're coming along? How can we help? I want to talk about the flip side of business meetings, which isn't just the old business, but the new business and like vision setting and planning. Because the reason meetings can be contentious is because they're normally the time when changes are introduced or proposed, Oh, yeah. And Doc Hearns told a story about...
it's about to be good.
It's about to be... I'm probably not telling it right. But he told a story about the members of the church. Somebody was asking for chandeliers or something in the church. We need chandeliers. The pastor was proposing chandeliers. I want to get chandeliers. And the people didn't know what chandeliers were. They didn't know the word, primitive church. And chandeliers. And it was just a big uproar, a big fight, big this, big that. And then finally he was like, y'all see how dark it is? We need lights. And they're like, why didn't you just say that? And he's like, I've been saying that, like I've been saying it. You didn't know the terminology I was using. But, whether it is, and I've had this, and I've been through a lot. And again, for the most part, as far as I can tell and know, we have been through a litany of the type of changes that people claim everybody fights over, like the color of the carpet and, changing this or moving that, and not to that detriment of the church. But apparently these things cause problems someplace. I mean, and it could be as simple as should we get drums or not, or do we need a new keyboard, or how much to pay, and so what are some of the biggest areas, and I want y'all to talk back to us, what are some of the biggest areas of contention and strife in church meetings?
Whew. I mean, just right off back, I think a lot of times is, especially when you have a semi-larger ministry, how much that auxiliary is afforded for that year.
Oh, so line item budgets for auxiliaries.
So why the ushers
get
this, and we only got
in the children's ministry.
I mean, you know what I'm saying, and then mostly it's based on what they done last year.
Right.
You know, most times it's based on what they done last year, how much they done. And so you shouldn't really get upset if you know what I mean. If all you bought was a shirt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, all you did was some white gloves. What are we talking about?
Why are you upset?
And the fans are free from the funeral home. I mean, what are we buying here? I mean, do you want like deluxe fans?
We need to upgrade. No, you don't.
we need hand fans that have Wi-Fi equipped. 30-year building funds. You've been raising money and not seen any change. And by the way, building funds. So let's be clear here. There's building funds and then there's new building funds.
Right.
And this is when you're going to build a whole new building. Whereas our building fund is what we call Vision 100, which was upgrade, renovate, expand if we can, basically, which would be a good motto to go. Upgrade, renovate, and expand if we can, kind of a thing. But you've seen visible changes in the church. We got energy efficient lighting, new carpet, remodeled pulpit, do all these things. And sometimes that means you take things away, like the old big piano is gone and different things. And that was a stealth move on my part years ago. I still don't know how I got away with that. Don't tell anybody I did it. Grover said change is constant. Always, for some reason, we in the church, it takes us a little while to adjust. Here's one point of contention: salaries. Pastors pay your package. And, whoever gets paid, I don't think the organist deserves that much. Why are we paying this person? Why aren't we paying this person? This person's been this long here without a raise, or, is this equitable? And one thing I'll say is that, again, everybody who comes to a business meeting is not business minded. I'm not disregarding or disrespecting them. But for instance, we've run into places where people didn't understand the difference between budget and cash on hand. Mm-hmm. So after our treasurer would get done saying, this is the budget for 2024, somebody would literally say, so we got that money in the bank, right?
Right.
And she's like, no, like this is what we are planning on funding as we give, as we have other income mechanisms. This is where we should be to fund or fulfill all that we plan to do. Some people don't understand the difference between pay and package.
Right.
So in some churches, some of our churches, pastors have packages. That's not necessarily pay.
Right.
It could be insurance, it could be retirement, it could be housing or cell phone or different things like that. And so they see a number on a screen or on a piece of paper and they're like, oh man, dude is banking, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And it's like, nah, we're blessed, grateful, and all of that, but we don't always understand that there's a difference between the two, and you have to explain it, but then you have to use discretion in how you explain it. Like, I'm a former musician. So when I hire a musician and they go into our budget, I'm going to pay them based off their skill and what they have to offer and what auxiliary things they might bring to the table. And some might be more highly skilled or more broad and experienced than others. So,
and then, just before you go up, because you done something that, and I don't even know if it was where you're at or maybe it was at Agape, but you would pay the keyboard player one thing, but then he had to pay the others.
Under certain arrangements.
Yeah, under certain arrangements. So, I mean, but it would look like this keyboard player is making a lot more than, he really is.
Right.
If people don't understand that, they would think something different.
Right. And they don't understand it. Exactly. So you think this big amount is all going to this one person. Like you said, it's their job to disperse to everyone else. You better explain that.
Right.
That they're taking on the burden of doing that. There might be somebody who's basically of a certain skill of playing and experience. And let's just say I'll make up a number. Oh, okay, that guy's getting 150. And then we end up with someone 3 years later who is very advanced, or they became very advanced. I'm like, well, they deserve 300. Well, why they deserve 300? Or why are you going down to the next one? Because they're not bringing the same thing to the table. They're just not.
And I mean, that really shouldn't be that hard, but it is. It is. It really should. I mean,
and God help me with the people you're talking about.
This person can't play down at the cross.
Right.
But this person can play Fred Hammond.
And don't tell me about the Mother Betty who played back in 1942 for nickels.
Free.
Yeah.
For free.
Don't tell me that story. So Grove, as the pulpit committee I was on, gave an increase and didn't take it to the church. Following protocol. That's a big course of dissension in any meeting when you don't. Now, here's the crazy thing. We need to follow the protocol and the rules, but first you have to know
the protocol. That's what I was going to say. You
and agree on your interpretation of it. Mm-hmm. Because it's like the Constitution in the Supreme Court. Like, there is a Constitution, but everybody reads into it differently.
Yes, sir.
Or they want to sort of manipulate the words of it when it applies. And again, if you ever get off track and do something outside of protocol, do it a different way, then when you're supposed to be doing it the right way, they'll call back, well, that's not what you did last time. Why don't you do it like you did it for them? So I wouldn't want to be in the middle of that fire. And I would tell our people, like, don't do anything, even if you think it is beneficial to me or helpful, or you feel like I should be blessed in this way or whatever. It's not worth the idea that even if it was with good intentions, if we can at all avoid it, and it's not an absolutely, as Grove says, a necessary move, don't do it if that's going to put me under fire later on. Right. Here's the one we haven't talked about, but it's true. The business meeting, the church meeting is a place to bring up issues that exist in the church that aren't business related, but couldn't be brought up anywhere else. If the pastor or somebody else in the church is not ethical, scandals, poor behavior.
Those are TikTok videos.
Those are TikTok videos waiting to happen. But where else?
Pastor, are you really sleeping with Sister Susan?
Did I see you over on?
What?
Did I see you in the red light district?
Wait a minute.
Are you cashing your checks at the bar?
So, we're gonna table that. Let's get back to the budget.
No, we ain't. But I mean, that's personal issues. Who's not getting along with who? Absolutely. Again, information or accusations about a pastor or a leader or a member, or why somebody is not qualified to serve in a ministry or should not be, or why one gets to serve and another doesn't. Why was this person removed, sat down, or not asked to do this, and this person isn't? And unfortunately, let's just be honest, and it goes back to what we say, the same thing about finance, transparency and honesty. Even if it's difficult and painful, it's not going to make any less painful, but it might make the process a little shorter.
Right. Because
what are we arguing about if you're not going to tell the truth about a situation, And unfortunately, I don't know what's worse. I guess worse is bringing it up in worship, somebody jumping up and screaming and carrying on, and doing this kind of stuff. But that's what we see in these meetings, that these meetings dissolve into a shouting match and accusations and people pull their phones out and all of that stuff. And that leads us to the other thing we mentioned is, leadership positions and who serves in leadership or should serve in leadership, and sticking to your guns and your rules, but also discernment and God's leading. And let's be clear, church doesn't always, the people in a church and the pastor at times don't always fall in line with God.
But, we said it earlier, those bylaws, those code of conduct, they were placed there for a reason.
Something happened.
They were placed there for a reason.
Every line in that doggone bylaw came because something happened.
Something definitely happened.
Something definitely happened.
If your 3-year term is up, don't just be trying to stay in. You know what I mean?
Right.
These are things, they're placed for a reason. They're there
Right.
for one. You don't need to get burnt out. Maybe there's something else God is calling you to.
Right.
Maybe there's somebody else more capable of the job than you are. You know what I mean? Things happen.
You're head of the kitchen committee and can't even cook. What is happening here?
I mean, especially when, you
And
started.
that's not second, by the way. We have some phenomenal cooks at second.
If you started as a smaller church, but then the church grew and you got
Right.
more people in, you got more people capable of doing what you were
that's
just
hard
filling
pill
in.
to swallow.
It is.
And it's even harder if you have an older church that's been running a certain way, but newer talent or gifts come into the church that are more proficient.
Right.
And you got to find a way to work those worlds together. And I want to say to any leaders or members that are asked to be a part of anything, or the pastor publicly puts your name on his back, basically, you need to do well by the pastor who
Absolutely.
speaks of you. Because we get up there and talk about, I trust this brother, I trust this sister, they're going to do a good job. And they get up there and make a plum monkey fool out of you.
Right.
When
you are affirmed by the pastor, please
live up to it. Please help it out.
at least try.
Mike, you want to add any commentary or thoughts to anything you've seen or experienced? And y'all share. If you got a good experience, a bad experience, I'd like to hear from you. What are some of your questions, or what bugs you in church meetings? I'd love to hear from you guys before we close out tonight. What bugs you, or what are you impressed with in church meetings?
What's the protocol if someone disagrees with something? Say like, okay, yeah, we're going to put this sidewalk in. It costs this amount of money. All those in favor, you know what I mean? You know how we go through the protocol. But what if somebody like totally disagrees and
You literally
don't
just
want it
said
at
it.
all?
In the
You literally
Baptist
just
church,
said it, though. If all those who agree,
majority rules.
eyes have it.
Now, in the Baptist church, the majority rules.
That's it. Eyes have it.
And I believe to a point, and you know what, again, and I'm not dogging my upbringing, but I came from one of those backgrounds where we don't vote around here.
Right.
You kind of need to. I think one guy should decide how we're going to spend $100,000. Now, but what you don't do, and it's almost like politics. A wise pastor or leadership is not going to set themselves up for failure just to lose and cause contention. You kind of already know, or you should know. And if you don't know, you haven't done your homework,
Right.
or you are either bullheaded or out of touch with your people. You ought to know that if I get up and say, hey, I want to buy a glass pulpit or something, and if everybody's going to say no to me and it's 70% no, I don't think I did my homework. At this point, I'm not going to run for office unless I'm 75% sure I was going to win.
Right. Absolutely.
Why would I put myself up for a loss? It's sometimes, I can't speak because I haven't been there yet. I learned as in my first few years, Grover was there when I first proposed this lobby thing, the way I went about it. I just came up with these drawings, I'd like to do this, but it wasn't in front of the whole church. It was just a joint board. And I kind of walked away from that meeting disappointed because it was oh no. Because I had already paid somebody to make some drawings and stuff and didn't even say I want to pay somebody to make some drawings. So I have violated some protocol because we had a limit of what I can just spend. And I had went over that. It wasn't much, but I did. And that was a learning lesson for me. Watch how I bring things forward. Why set myself up in a completely unknown scenario and just hope people going to be feeling my excitement when I show up? You know what I mean? So in the Baptist church and in any churches that now the question becomes, what do you put to a vote? Now in our church, we have a discretion where up to a certain amount we can spend without bringing it to our board. If we just need a furnace or a light needs to be fixed, we can just do it. If it's larger, we inform the church and we have it to pay and we're going to take care of a basic. But if it's a visionary project thing, we're going to spend $50,000, $80,000, that's got to be a church meeting.
Absolutely.
We have to give 2 weeks notice. You've heard me say in church, I don't know if you heard me say that clearly in church, this is our first notice that there is a church meeting coming up, and this is our second notice. There's a church meeting coming up, and then it's in the bulletins. Now, we were weekly bulletins. They had to be in the bulletin for 2 weeks. Now that we have a newsletter, it has to be there in the beginning of the month, and it has to be 2 weeks down the line from when we pass out the bulletin. But that's just, and one time I got up and said, I'm so sorry, I forgot to say it, but would you forgive me? Could we accept this? And I had to kind of we're most people are okay. But going by protocol, that's what helps a lot.
And I think you're right. Sometimes it's, if if the furnace went out, you know, ain't don't nobody want to be in church cold. Right. You know what I mean? It's just it's almost but you still got to do the protocol of doing it right and just making sure that everybody knows, listen, you know, we all up in here with coats on right now, scarves and gloves.
Right.
You know, ain't nobody about to vote no on that.
Well, that's how I got that air conditioner. Like, y'all see how hot we are, right? y'all see how hot. Do I need to explain this to you? Yay or nay right now? What are we doing? Now, the other part goes into, and as we finish up, you know, one thing I found is that leaders have to be united in affirming and supporting the decisions and the protocol of the church. It's never a good dynamic when you have these rules and you stick one person out there, whether it's the pastor, the head deacon or whatever, and they're like dying on the vine trying to be the enforcer and nobody else supports them. So let's say people aren't members and they haven't been giving and nobody's got the guts to tell them, I'm sorry, sister, you can't come the way you're coming and you're not in good standing with this church. You're not even a member of this church. And then we put the preacher, whether it's them or the deacon who says it, like, we just sit back and let them fight the battle. We have to be united.
I think you said it earlier. Grover had those letters. And on those letters, at the bottom of that letter, it should say pastor, deacon, trustee, secretary, whatever.
Okay, and I've been in the middle of this situation and wasn't even that second. What do you do when people start changing their story about the letter? I didn't know they were sending that. Nobody told me. You know what I mean? It's like, it's unfortunate, but it's true. Like, people don't stand on.
You got to have somebody going over their house. This letter, I'm
certified.
This certified letter.
To have them serve with a sheriff. I mean, what? What do you got to do? Call a deputy? But I'm saying is, whatever the rule is, I don't care if it's, hey, we have to give this way. You know, members should come this much. We're gonna stick to this plan, even if it's a vision. If it's a vision, you know, we're gonna do this. It's not fair to the pastor or that committee or whoever it might be. Maybe it's a committee that put their weight behind something. They put their names on it. And now everybody else in leadership's backing off of it and acting like, you know, maybe not. You know, and they're like, yo, I thought in the back room we was all cool with this. You know, right, so right. I think that there has to be unity and togetherness. And honestly, and something we've talked about, and I can be frank about this because I think every church can benefit from this. Be as honest as you need to be about what you can and can't do and what you will and won't do from the jump. Be honest about what you can and can't do. Don't act like you can give all this money to support something if you cannot do it.
Right.
Don't act like you will give all this money or serve in a capacity or be faithful to a function if you won't do it. If you know you just won't, like, you know you're gonna get tired like 4 months and be like, I don't feel like getting up, opening the church every Sunday. Then be honest, because it just creates frustration if people are polite to a fault where nobody wants to say, nah, I don't really feel that. I don't see myself giving. I don't see myself working hard towards that. I don't see myself being that faithful. Maybe it's not. I respect the brothers who have said to me, yeah, I don't want a title. I don't want a name. I don't want this. I don't want that. Because I don't want you calling on me, expecting me to be something. There's some people who said, I don't know if I want to vote for that project or whatever it might be, or that campaign.
You can't abstain.
Because you asked me to give, and I don't think I'm going to do it.
Right. You can abstain.
So I said this in our last meeting when we had a financial report, which took an hour, a good hour, but if we did a full financial report and then we accept the financial report. I say, whoa. Be sure you understand that when we accept this financial report and this budget for this year, what you are voting in the affirmative is that you as a congregation will do what you are called to do to fulfill it.
Right.
You are not just calling to accept somebody's numbers on a page. You are calling to be the giver and the participant and the member that you committed to being, because these numbers mean nothing without us.
That's right.
So I said before y'all, yeah, you know what I mean? I'd rather hear if you, no, I ain't trying to tie this, you know what I mean, than the other side. And of course, everybody still says yeah. But God holds us to our yes, right, and the people who depend on us do too.
Last but not least, try not to be the person with the biggest mouth and the smallest pockets. How about
brother? And least work and service and sacrifice.
Ain't showed up to nothing. Ain't been to a breakfast. Ain't
don't
been
come
to a
prayer.
Prayer, nothing but
Bible dusty.
Come to the meeting and got everything to say.
Bible dusty. Listen, I got people that go to other people's churches and come to our church meeting.
Say that again.
They regularly visit on a regular basis other people's churches, but they always at our church meeting. because they're on the roll. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not good enough to preach to you. Apparently, you're all over creation. It's weird. We're weird people. So I see why the preachers get to cussing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a cusser. I'm not going to.
Just bring your gun next time. Like Elder Carter said, bring your gun, set it down. This church meeting has officially began.
This is called to order.
Church meeting is called to order.
I love it. Any final words? Any final thoughts?
That was a good show again.
You had a good first church meeting, didn't you? In the Ville?
Great first church meeting, man.
I have 8 straight years of good church meetings. 8 straight years.
Good people, just ready to do the work, and
right.
So
they'll cuss you out sooner or later. Don't worry, man.
I'm from Youngstown.
Bruh, they're scared of Jeff. They're like, he's from the yo.
He's from
the yo.
Cuss me out. It's gonna be some furniture moving.
Jeff gonna be like, next time we're meeting on the south side. Meet me on Glenwood next time if you want to have a meeting. Hey, y'all, thank you so much for watching Religiously Incorrect. Hope you were entertained, informed, inspired, got a few laughs in on a Sunday night. We pray that you will follow us online, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you listen to audio podcasts. This wonderful content. Our full library is available on our Facebook and YouTube pages, as well as on all of our audio platforms.
Some merch on there too, right?
Got some merch on there. Some merch. We'll make some up if you want.
We ain't gonna be here next week, is we?
It's Easter.
So y'all gonna.
We ain't gonna be here.
I don't know.
I'm just playing. No,
I don't know.
Take the night off.
No days off. No days off around here. We'll find out. But hey, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys had a great day and hope you have a great holy week. Go to church somewhere. Please. Wear your brightest suit.
Y'all know y'all got to be at somebody's 7 last words.
7. I'm not going.
Yeah, you going.
I'm not going to anybody's 7 last words. I got 7 last words. I'm not going to your 7 last words. Y'all take care. Peace out.